What's up, everyone? Aaron Nagler here with Cheesehead TV. Time for your Packers Daily Chat here at Cheesehead TV's Facebook page and Instagram. If you happen to be on the go and you're on your Instagram app and want me in wherever commute you may be having right now, take a look there in our stories on our Facebook page. We're here for you, Packers fans, after the Packers beat the Buffalo Bills 22-0. Although you wouldn't know it from the comments both post-game and today. Lots of angst about the offense, understandably, given their herky-jerky showing. And I think that's probably being kind, charitable. Myrtle Beach, Andy, what's up? Thanks for checking in. But yeah, Rodgers post-game comments making a lot of waves. McCarthy, as was expected, didn't rise to that bait. Was asked repeatedly about those comments in his press conference today. Clearly, the defense had a great showing against a very young quarterback. I think it's interesting in that most people are kind of scratching their heads how the Bills could go into Minnesota and have such a good showing there and then look absolutely inept on offense in Green Bay. I think that speaks to Mike Pettin and the job he and his crew did looking at what was on offer from the tape when it comes to what happened in Minnesota and really playing off of that. Hello, everybody in the comments. Look at all these people. Thanks so much for hopping on your Monday afternoon. Josh says, Rodgers has every right to say that. Of course he does. He's a starting QB, face of the franchise. That's all he has the right to say whatever he wants. But he also can be picked apart and second-guessed by people who watch the game and saw the quarterback miss a bunch of easy throws that he would normally make. And much more so than the game plan or play calling. It's about execution. They hang on to the football. Rodgers hits a number of throws he usually can make in his sleep. We're not talking about any of this. I get the frustration. I really do. But we've seen this act play out before. Rodgers is frustrated post-game. He takes passive-aggressive shots at his head coach and play caller. And then Mike McCarthy does nothing but praise him and never rises to anything even close to negative about his quarterback. It's a time, tradition, dance that we've seen in Green Bay year after year after year. Nothing's going to change as long as those two guys are in town. It's called leadership. Tim, I don't think being close to petulant at the press conference is really what I would call leadership, but that's just me. Ben Roethlisberger last night, very similar situation where his team is very herky-jerky, can't get into a groove on offense. All Roethlisberger talked about was how he needed to improve. He needed to play better. He needed to get on the page with his wide receivers. That's what I call leadership. But you and I, we can have differing opinions of what leadership is, and that's fine. Zach, cheers. Does Bell keep the right guard spot? Brian, that's going to be interesting to watch develop. I thought he held his own yesterday. They certainly gave him help at times, but I think he played pretty darn well against a really good defensive front. That said, I didn't see much in his game yesterday to make me think that they'll pull McCray permanently. I think he played about as well as McCray's played through the first couple weeks. So we'll see. Well, obviously they'll have their determination off the tape. Maybe we'll get a hint on Wednesday which way they're leaning. And I think some of that will, be about McCray's health. But, I think he more than held his own. There's no doubt about that. Did Josh Jones take any defensive snaps? You know what? I forgot to look at his snap count, but I'm pretty sure he didn't. He was pretty much, a healthy scratch on defense. I know he got special team snaps, but it sure seems that Whitehead has moved in front of him permanently, at least for the time being, that third safety spot. Packers defense getting that shutout must mean that Hundley wasn't chewing gum. Correct, Matt. See, Josh Jones' tweet doesn't seem to be happy. Hey, man, no player I know is happy with sitting the bench. So, Josh Jones only took special teams. There you go. You think Rodgers' scotch consumption is causing his inaccuracies? That's a good one. I like it. When gonna have a scotch turns into we're gonna have a pint, we're in trouble. Yeah, no doubt. Give Jones the ball 30-plus times a game. Well, Josh, that's what I would do, but I play Madden. So I think McCarthy and his use of the running backs, I get where they're coming from on that. All three of those guys have shown or have had a history of injury, kind of a penchant for getting hurt. They want to keep all three guys fresh throughout the season. I don't dismiss or doubt or disagree with the notion that Jones is their best runner. There's no doubt about it. But they want to use that rotation. That's how they're going to go about divvying the snaps up. And don't forget, Jones had more carries than anyone else yesterday, or played more snaps than anyone yesterday. So of the 3 running backs. So, it's frustrating in the sense that you want that talent on the field all the time. You feel like you're kind of maybe leaving big plays on the bench, but if he keeps all 3 guys healthy and he keeps them versatile and able to attack defenses in a multiple, variety of ways, I can understand where they're coming from. Again, it's not what I would do, but I understand their thinking. Lions offense has a history of going off on us. Will we be able to stop them this week? Good question, Keith. It'll be tough in that building. I think they'll look improved, especially over what we saw from them last year, and the last 2 years really. But they're going to get there. Stafford is going to, and Golden Tate and the crew, they're going to move the ball. They're going to score some points. But I think there will be improvement. Now, will it be enough? We'll see. Was Kyler Fackrell's game a flash in the pan or sort of an uptick in performance? I know I'm going to be called a Fackrell hater here because I have been negative and down on the kid for a long time. But I do think we have to temper things with Kyler Fackrell and look at situationally what happened in that game. His last sack came against a kid who came in and was literally in his second snap all season. He came in for the injured Mills and was laid off the ball, and Kyler beat him in an obvious passing situation. And that's the other thing you got to remember. It's 22-0 when Kyler Fackrell gets all 3 of those sacks. The Bills are in, desperation, have to throw it. He knows where the quarterback's going to be. He doesn't have to play the run, doesn't have to worry about the threat of anything else other than getting to the quarterback. Yes, you're happy for him. He was productive when he should be. That's great. Do I project that that's going to mean he's all of a sudden going to go on a run of getting to the quarterback with regularity? No, I do not, but he's proven me wrong before. Maybe he'll prove me wrong again. Glad to see Nick Perry got in his yearly half a sack. Hey, Nick Perry had 3 sacks in one game. Was it last year or 2 years ago against the Bears? Come on now. Much like Kyler Fackrell, these things come in bunches. You never know. Lions don't look any better under Patricia. I think their defense will be a work in progress. Obviously, he's a defensive-minded coach. They kept the same offense. The Jets showed everybody that in week 1. But, they're still a very talented group. And they're at home. The Packers will have their hands full. There's no doubt about that. Any injury news on Allison's concussion? No, and Jair's groin injury, nothing. Mike didn't give any injury updates as his usual practice on Mondays. We probably won't have anything until Wednesday morning at the earliest. Can this defense rattle a veteran like they did Josh Allen? Well, that is the $1 million question right there. All season long, we've seen this defense play well in spurts, usually a half. It's been kind of a Jekyll and Hyde operation. Yesterday, obviously, they got after Josh Allen. They made him look like the rookie he is. That's great. It's exciting. A big shutout. It's wonderful. Can they do it against Matt Stafford in his building? I highly doubt that. But what we really needed to see is consistency, and at least we saw the start of that yesterday. Can they play 4 quarters? Can they play 4 quarters against a good quarterback? And that Matt Stafford definitely qualifies. That's the next step. As McCarthy always likes to say, it's about stacking successes. They've got one. This weekend is another big test, and if they can pass that, then hopefully we'll see the start of a defense that's coalescing and headed in the right direction. That score should have been 50-0. That's why Aaron was so ticked off. William, I agree. I couldn't agree more. But again, it's about execution more than anything else. Hang on to the balls that are in your hands. Hit the throws that are, you would make with your eyes closed on most Sundays, and they would have scored a whole lot more points. It's about executing. It's pretty simple at the end of the day. Thanks, Matt. Thomas flipping the bird, what's that all about? Adrian, if you're talking about Earl Thomas, because he's pissed at Pete Carroll. He held out because he wanted a new deal, and the Seahawks wouldn't give it to him, and he finally reported, and then he got hurt. And on the flip side, from the Seahawks' point of view, they're probably saying, see, that's why we didn't pay you, because you might get hurt. Both sides, it's tough, but I understand where Thomas is coming from. He's super frustrated, and, the target of his ire is Pete Carroll. Julia with the scouting report of the year. Kendricks is so meh. I agree. He's been pretty big disappointment so far this season. And it continues to mystify why he's playing ahead of Mercedes Lewis. I just wonder how much of this is in regards to McCarthy and his offensive staff having spent all offseason working on their kind of personnel groupings and offensive game plan, and then suddenly getting Lewis so late into the process. Maybe that's part of it, but I don't think there's anybody out there who thinks that, Kendrick should be getting snaps ahead of Lewis on a regular basis. Certainly, yes, mix it up, use all three of your tight ends. I love it. But why Kendricks continues to be the favored son at the number 2 tight end spot over Lewis is a great mystery to me. Ty Montgomery should be returning punts. I don't know about all that. I think Jair Alexander should have been returning punts, obviously, before he got hurt. But, yeah, throwing out the wily veteran Tramon Williams, I didn't love that decision. What did you think of Earl Thomas and his antics? Travis just covered that. Where's tight end Lewis? Jess, it's a great mystery. I would love to know. How good is Kenny Clark, so young still, and such a handful up front? Joe, I agree. He had a big-time pressure that turned into a Kyler Fackrell sack, just like he did a couple weeks ago when he got pressure that resulted in a Clay Matthews sack. Corey Banky, we need more Aaron Jones. It's coming, Corey. Incremental throughout the year. It'll happen. Hoping they'll use Montgomery more in the passing game. Donnie, I agree, especially with Cobb injured. I know Cobb spoke in the locker room this afternoon about his hamstring feeling a little better. They'll see how it progresses. But I agree, especially if Cobb is out, get Ty involved in the passing game. Use him in the slot. Heck, that'll give him more opportunities, and it'll get another few snaps for Aaron Jones in the backfield. Is Bulaga fully healthy? Healthy enough to play. He made it through the game. Carlos, you can ignore any Le'Veon Bell rumors that you may hear regarding the Green Bay Packers. O-line looked good yesterday. You think this will become a trend? Yeah, for the most part. I think they played well against a really good front. There was a sack. One of the 2 sacks that Aaron suffered was, as from Rodgers' own admission, the one where he took the hit from the blind side. That's a ball he has to get out of his hands. That free rusher is on the quarterback. He has to, know that pre-snap and get the ball out. But for the most part, yeah, I thought they held together really well. Banky complaining about the refs. Never gets old. Where is Montravius Adams? Josh, buried in the depth chart. Did you see how many QBs threw for 400 yesterday? Defense is dead. Well, that's just the way the NFL likes it. Rodgers had enough time to throw. I was impressed. Absolutely. 69 best left tackle in the league, hands down. I don't know about that, Matt. I'd probably still go Tyrion Smith down there in Dallas. But, I mean, you can't deny the job that Bakhtiari did yesterday and has done pretty much all year. And I'd like to call out somebody on Twitter whose name I can't remember who said I was crazy for saying that Bakhtiari would eliminate Hughes and they didn't need to worry about it. Exhibit A, the game tape. The wave on offense, really? LJ, welcome to Lambeau. What's the most maddening thing about our offense? The inconsistency. So far, the lack of execution. Just do your job. That's the thing, like play design, play calling, game plan, all of that nonsense. I mean, who cares? If you can't execute, none of that will matter. And I think it's telling that Mike McCarthy today in his press conference said point blank that he and Aaron Rodgers talked about the Thursday Night Football game on Friday, the game between the Rams and the Vikings, and about the offensive execution. And Mike said the most impressive thing about the Rams on Thursday night was their execution. Like, you can have your Star Wars offense, that's great, but if you don't execute, it doesn't matter. So, I get the frustrations with the play calling, I get the frustrations with the game plan, but geez, just hang on to the football, hit the throws you're supposed to hit, and you'll be cooking with gas. This is not difficult. And, the more this goes on, the more it will be turning back to the players and less to the coaches. Blake freaking Bortles almost threw for 400. Stupid league. What was with the third down play calling? John's been that way all year, and that is a big mystery. Now, you got to remember that Aaron Rodgers is part of it. And I've had a big kind of back and forth all day with my Twitter account. People wanted to kill Mike McCarthy. You got to remember, Aaron Rodgers is a component there. And there's one in particular, the third down that I posted, where it was 3rd and 11 early on in the game and they ran a draw play. That is clearly an option that Rodgers has where he can either go to the draw or hit Jimmy Graham out in the flat. And he chose the draw. My problem with it is that both of those plays have a low percentage of actually picking up the first down, and I get they're trying to get into field goal range. Remember when we didn't want to get into field goal range? When we used to have an Aaron Rodgers where he flipped his wrist and boom, that's an 18-yard gain, first down, let's go? I get it's not that easy, but that mentality used to be there. And now it sure seems throughout the first 4 games of the year that 3rd and 11 plus means we have given up. And that's not a mentality I want to endorse. Maybe that's just me. What's the biggest missing link to getting in the end zone versus settling for field goals? Steve, I'm going to keep saying it. Execution. Hanging onto the football. Making the reads and the throws. You know, at the end of the day, as Vince Lombardi said, this is a simple game. Just execute. If they can execute, they'll be scoring 30 points in no time flat. Gmo is starting to look really solid. Funnily enough, I think he had his poorest game of the year yesterday. A number of drops where he's normally pretty sure-handed. Obviously, we'd like to see what happens in regards to the concussion protocol. We don't know what's going on there. But overall, this season, he has absolutely answered the bell when it comes to the number 3 wide receiver spot. Kumaro, I got a Kumaro question on October 1st. I love it. Josh Kumaro is on injured reserve. He can be brought off of injured reserve after week 8. Why do I feel our head coach is not responsible for this team's wins? I don't know, Craig. That's an interesting way to look at it, but a head coach is responsible for every win and loss. Will Breland play this week? I don't know, Zach. Let me call Mike Pettin real quick. We'll see. You know, clearly, they didn't want to put him up on Sunday because he had just arrived, probably wasn't quite up to snuff with the scheme. But we'll see. You know, he's got to show he can do it in practice. Lack of execution due to lack of practice reps. Nick, there is a very clear correlation there. I don't think anyone would deny that internally. Externally, they're going to say, Aaron Rodgers point blank said after the game yesterday that it didn't matter. And I can tell you 100% that is nonsense. Practice matters. Yes, he's one of the most, if not the most talented quarterback in the game today. Still got to practice. And if you don't practice, you get stuff like we saw yesterday. It's pretty simple. Jair groin or hammy is a groin injury is what they announced in the press box. So we'll see how that plays out. Need to feed Aaron Jones. Jeff, I feel you. Not going to happen, but I feel you. Dumb penalty by Blake. Andrew, I didn't hate that penalty. We've seen guys take their helmets off 100 times and not get called. He had gotten hit, and his helmet was halfway on, halfway off, and he just took it off. And it's after a 3rd down stop. He's thinking he's going to walk off the field. So, that's a ticky-tack nonsense call that, the league loves, but because it helps the offense. I hated that call. I thought it was ridiculous. Tate always hurts us, very much so. Rodgers didn't play that bad yesterday. I didn't say he played bad. He missed some throws. That's just a fact. Check the tape. Jake Blake just got his eyes gouged. Exactly. How do you see us matching up with the Lions? I haven't watched a whole lot of Detroit tape so far since that Week 1 beatdown they took by the Jets. I know they've looked better. Ask me that again on Wednesday, and I'll have a better idea for you. 73 literally threw fists. He can take his helmet off. Exactly. If McCarthy is out after the season, will the whole coaching staff be gone too? Woo! That is a question on October 1st. Most likely. But let's let the season play out first. Are these give-up plays a product of Philbin? Good question, Peter. Might be a question for Mike McCarthy on Wednesday, if I can plant a bug with one of the reporters in the room. Jimmy Graham doesn't seem to be very explosive yet. It's funny. I saw a couple plays yesterday where Rodgers turns him down because he's not completely open. And I saw a couple plays where Jimmy Graham's doubled. So, yeah, I do wonder how much is Rodgers just not wanting to force the issue. He's still been productive. Clearly got his first touchdown yesterday. But he has not been the force and or the weapon that he sure looked like he was going to be this summer during training camp. It'll be interesting to see how that develops. Now, don't forget, Jared Cook didn't look all that great when they first got him, and he turned out to be a very important, integral part of them running the table a couple years ago. So, it's a long season. We'll see how it develops. When was the last time this defense had this much swagger? Lots of trash talk from Jair. Well, that's who he is. I mean, that's not even the defense. That's just Jair. I love that he got under Calvin Benjamin's skin enough that he felt it necessary to poke him in the eye. Yeah, I mean, they do have swagger. And that young secondary, they feed off of each other. You can tell after Jair Alexander's interception, the way they were all kind of dancing together. You love that. You love that feeding off that. A lot of swagger. I mean, it's got to be tempered a little bit because of the competition they faced, but it's a good stepping stone. There's no doubt about it. Text Mike, right. Lions look like my newborn's diapers versus the Cowboys. All right, well, you got a scouting report from Matt there. Good to know. So now that Thomas broke his leg, can we stop begging to trade for him? Joshua, that's exactly what I said on Twitter yesterday. Did Burks play much in this last game? Anson, he did. He played quite a bit from scrimmage. Not a ton, but definitely his most extensive action so far this year, and I thought he looked solid. Not spectacular, but I thought he held up really well. When the Pack was undefeated 13-0 years ago, the fans lost interest. The obstacle is the way. That's pretty deep, Ryan. I don't even know if I agree with it, but that is pretty deep. I know it was the Bills, but the defense reminded me of the Super Bowl winning defense in 2011. All right. Surprised by Blake Martinez's dumb penalty, not characteristic. I can't kill him for it. I can't kill him for it. The guy just pushed his fingers into his face and eyes like he took off his helmet. I can't kill him for it. Scott was one of our best picks. Who would have thought that, Zach? I hope Corey Banky's still watching. J.K. Scott, weapon. I guess Clinton Dix is not afraid of contact anymore. What an INT. Julia, absolutely. That is a fantastic play from Clinton Dix. Now, Josh Allen led him right to it, but we have seen many times where guys in the safety position in particular in Green Bay have pulled up or not wanting to, get hit or make a hit for fear of injury and or penalty, but that was an outstanding play from the Green Bay Packers safety there. Corey's never going to let it go. J.K. Scott, weapon. Hey, don't think that the punter wasn't part of that defensive performance yesterday, all right? There's something to be said for flipping the field and needing the offense to go an extra long way rather than giving them. How do you think they beat the Vikings? By having a short field. Did they have short fields yesterday? No. Why? Because of a weapon called J.K. Scott. All right. Nelson got the tiebreaker in Oakland with his face mask. Nice. Looks like Whitehead will be playing safety on passing downs and Bryce on running downs. A little bit. I think there's a little bit of kind of interchange there, but mostly I think Bryce will be the nominal starter. They'll use Whitehead in sub a little bit, and they did switch them out a couple times yesterday, but I still think Bryce is ahead of Whitehead overall. McCarthy thinking about Pittsburgh. I highly doubt that. All right, everybody, I'm going to have to jump. Thank you so much for all the questions. I'm sorry if I couldn't get to yours. Lots of people here today. Of course, always a great day after a victory. Thanks a lot, everyone. Make sure you check everything we do at cheeseheadtv.com. Check the Facebook page. And if you're on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We got tons of great stuff up. Thanks a lot, everyone. Talk to you tomorrow.